I woke up at 1 in the morning to my phone buzzing on the nightstand. My heart jumped, thinking something terrible had happened. I grabbed the phone and saw a text from my daughter Emma. "Mom, I know you paid $375,000 for this house, but Greg's mother doesn't want you at Christmas dinner. She says it makes her uncomfortable. Can you please just skip it this year?" I stared at those words, my chest tightening. I typed back one word, "All right." That night, something inside me shifted completely. I couldn't sleep after reading that message. I sat in my small apartment kitchen, the one Id moved into 3 years ago, so Emma could have a real home. The apartment was modest, just 2 bedrooms, with worn linoleum floors and a leaky faucet I couldn't afford to fix properly. I made myself chamomile tea and sat by the window, watching the December darkness outside. My mind went back to 3 years earlier, to Emma's wedding. It had been a beautiful outdoor ceremony in upstate New York, with white chairs arranged on a hillside and flowers everywhere. I remember feeling so proud watching her walk down the aisle, even though my heart ached that Richard wasn't there to see it. My husband had died of a heart attack 18 months before the wedding, and I was still learning how to live without him. After the wedding, Emma and Greg were struggling. Emma had nursing school debt of $87,000. Greg had business degree debt of $63,000. They were renting a cramped 1-bedroom apartment, barely making ends meet, trying desperately to save for a house while those student loan payments ate up everything they earned. I remember the conversation we had in my kitchen, back when I still lived in the house Richard and I had bought 30 years earlier. Emma sat across from me, her eyes red from crying. "Mom, we're never going to be able to buy a house. Not with these loans. We'll be renting forever." Id looked at her, my only child, and made a decision. "Let me help you," I said. "Your father would have wanted this. He always said family comes first." We found a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial in a good school district. White siding, black shutters, a big backyard perfect for the children Emma talked about having someday. The price was $375,000. I had that much, exactly, from Richard's life insurance policy and our retirement savings that we'd built over 40 years of marriage. My lawyer, an older gentleman named Mr. Harrison Hood, handled our affairs for decades, advised against it. "Muriel," he said, "at least put the house in both names. Protect yourself. Have a written agreement about repayment or co-ownership." But I trusted Emma. She was my daughter. I didn't want her to feel indebted or controlled. "Just put it in Emma's name," I told him. "It's a gift." So I wrote the check. $375,000, every penny I had. I moved into this small rental apartment to make it possible, selling the house Richard and I had shared. The memories hurt too much anyway, I told myself. A fresh start would be good. Now, sitting in that apartment at 1 in the morning, I looked around at what my sacrifice had bought me. Furniture from thrift stores, a thermostat I kept at 65 degrees to save on heating bills, generic brand everything in my cupboards. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account, something I did obsessively now. $12,300. That was all I had left in the world. My monthly income was simple to calculate. Social Security gave me $1,800. My part-time job at the library, where I worked 20 hours a week shelving books and helping patrons, brought in another $900, $2,700 total to live on each month. Meanwhile, Emma and Greg lived in that spacious house. Emma worked as a nurse, making $68,000 per year. Greg worked in marketing, making $72,000 per year. They had good careers now, stable incomes, but somehow there was never enough. I started scrolling through my phone, looking at the text messages from Emma over the past year. A pattern emerged that I'd been too willing to ignore. "Mom, the furnace broke. Can you help with the repair? It's $2,000 and we just don't have it right now. Mom, we need new appliances. The ones that came with the house are so old. Can you loan us $3,500? We'll pay you back. Mom, can you watch the house while we go to Florida for 2 weeks? Just water the plants and get the mail. I scrolled further back. When was the last time Emma had invited me over just to spend time together? Not to babysit their dog while they traveled. Not to help organize the garage. Not to bring food for one of their parties. Just to have coffee and talk, mother and daughter. I couldn't remember. Last Thanksgiving came back to me in sharp detail. I'd been invited, yes, but when I arrived, I was seated at the small kitchen table while Greg's mother, Patricia, held court in the dining room with the real guests. I'd sat there eating my turkey and mashed potatoes, listening to laughter from the other room, feeling like a servant allowed to eat the leftovers. The memories made my hands shake. I opened my email, thinking I'd distract myself with something mindless. That's when I saw it. An email forwarded to me by accident, sent at 11 p.m. the night before Emma texted me. It was part of an email chain between Emma and Patricia. My stomach dropped as I read Patricia's words. I really think it's better if your mother doesn't come. She always looks so shabby, and my sister's family will be there. You know how important appearances are. Besides, she gave you that house as a gift. She can't expect anything in return. Emma's response was worse. You're right. I'll tell her tonight. I sat there staring at the screen. Shabby. That's what Patricia thought of me. And Emma agreed. Emma, who wore designer jeans I couldn't afford. Emma, who lived in a house I bought her. Emma, who called me only when she needed something. My hands were shaking so badly I had to close the laptop. But something was happening inside me. Something that felt like ice crystallizing into solid form. For 3 years, I'd been soft, accommodating, endlessly giving. I'd told myself I was being a good mother, supporting my daughter, showing unconditional love. But this wasn't love. This was being used. I stood up from my kitchen table and walked to my bedroom. I opened the drawer in my nightstand and pulled out a small notebook, the one where I'd been tracking expenses. I'd never added it all up before. I'd been afraid to see the total. Now, in the cold light of that December morning, I did the math. The sun came up while I worked, but I barely noticed. I spread papers across my kitchen table, pulling bank statements from folders, printing emails, creating a timeline on a legal pad I'd taken from the library's supply closet. The house purchase, $375,000. That was the big one, the foundation of everything else. But it was just the beginning. 6 months after they moved in, the furnace broke. Emma called me in tears. Mom, it's going to cost $2,000 to replace. We just paid our car insurance and were tapped out. I wrote the check. 8 months later, Emma decided they needed new appliances. The ones in the house are so outdated, Mom. Can you believe the previous owners left us such old stuff? Never mind that those appliances worked fine. She wanted stainless steel, matching. I sent her $3,500. Then came the roof repair, $4,200. Mom, the insurance won't cover it because it's considered normal wear and tear. We're panicking. I paid it. Greg's car needed a new transmission. Emma called. Mom, we need a second car. Greg's job is 30 miles away. Can you help with the down payment? $6,000, smaller amounts over time. Christmas gifts, where Emma gave me a budget. Can you cover gifts for Patricia's family? Just $500. Then it was $700. Then $900. Birthday gifts. Emergency utility bills when they forgot to pay on time. Help with their homeowners association fees. I added it up 3 times, unable to believe the number. $403,700. That's what he'd given Emma and Greg in 3 years. More than $400,000. And what did I have to show for it? This small apartment, $12,000 in the bank, a 15-year-old sedan with 192,000 miles on it, and a check engine light that glowed permanently orange. I'd started buying generic medication to save money, cutting my blood pressure pills in half to make them last longer. I wore the same 3 outfits on rotation because I couldn't afford new clothes. Meanwhile, I'd seen Emma's social media posts, vacations to the beach, new furniture, dinners at expensive restaurants, designer handbags. I pulled up my calendar and reviewed the past year. Emma had invited me to her house exactly 4 times. 4 times in 12 months. Each time, I realize now, Shed needed something. Help babysitting their golden retriever while they went away for the weekend. Assistance cleaning out the garage because they were hosting a party. Could I bring 3 dozen cookies for their holiday party? Not once had she said, "Mom, come over for coffee. I miss you. Let's talk." I tried to remember the last time Emma had asked about my life. How was work at the library? Had I made any friends in my new apartment building? Was I lonely? Did I need anything? The silence in my memory was deafening. My sister Dorothy called at 9 a.m., her usual time. She lived in California, and we talked every week, usually with me pretending everything was fine. This time, I told her everything. The words poured out of me. 3 years of swallowed hurt and ignored warning signs. Dorothy listened, and I could hear her getting angrier by the minute. "Muriel Ann, are you telling me you gave that girl over $400,000 and she's uninviting you from Christmas because you look shabby?" "Patricia thinks I look shabby," I corrected weakly, and Emma agreed with her. "I need to talk to her. Have an honest conversation." "Good," Dorothy said. "It's past time." I hung up and immediately called Emma's number. It rang 4 times, then she answered. I could hear Patricia's voice in the background, clear as day. "Just tell her you're busy." Emma's voice was distracted. "Mom, I can't talk right now. We're planning Christmas with Greg's family. I'll call you back." She never did. That evening, feeling hollow and restless, I did something I knew I shouldn't. I checked Emma's social media. There was a new post, uploaded just 2 hours earlier. A photo of the house, the 3-bedroom colonial I'd bought with my life savings. It was decorated beautifully for Christmas. White lights along the roofline, a wreath on the door. Through the front window, I could see their Christmas tree, tall and full, covered in ornaments. The caption read, "So grateful for the home we worked so hard to buy. Can't wait to host Christmas. No mention of me. No acknowledgement of the sacrifice that made that house possible." The post had 63 likes. I scrolled through the comments. Patricia had left one that made my chest tight. "So proud of you both for achieving this on your own." On your own. As if I didn't exist. As if my $400,000 had never happened. I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of my apartment. Outside, I could hear neighbors laughing, music playing, the sounds of people preparing for the holidays. Inside, I sat alone in the quiet. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg for scraps of my daughter's attention. I wasn't going to keep giving pieces of myself until there was nothing left. I was going to take action. The next morning, I called every attorney's office in the phone book until I found one who could see me that day. Most were booked solid before the holidays, but a woman named Susan Blackwell had a cancellation. "I can see you at 2 p.m., her receptionist said. "It's $350 for a consultation. $350 was a week's worth of groceries. But I needed help." "I'll be there," I said. Susan Blackwell's office was in a renovated Victorian house downtown, with hardwood floors and tall windows. Susan herself was in her early 50s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp brown eyes that seemed to see everything. She shook my hand with a firm grip and gestured to a leather chair across from her desk. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. Id brought all my documentation in a folder. Bank statements showing the wire transfers, emails between Emma and me discussing the money, text messages asking for help, Patricia's email that had been forwarded to me by accident. I spread it all across her desk like evidence at a trial. Susan reviewed each document carefully, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. She didn't speak for 15 minutes, just read and wrote, her expression neutral. Finally, she looked up at me. "Mrs. Muriel, whose name is on the deed to the house." "Emma's," I said. "Just hers. Did you have any written agreement about repayment? Any contract establishing co-ownership? Any legal document at all?" My heart sank. "No. It was a gift. I trusted her. She's my daughter." Susan's expression softened, and I saw something like sympathy cross her face. "I understand. But legally, Mrs. Muriel, that house is entirely Emma's. You have no claim to it. The same goes for the other money you gave her. Without promissory notes or written agreements, legally those are considered gifts. You can't force repayment." I felt the room tilt slightly. I'd known this, deep down, but hearing it said out loud made it real. I'd given away nearly everything I had, and I had no legal recourse. "However," Susan said, leaning forward, "there's something else to consider here. Tell me about Emma and Greg's financial situation, their income, their debts, their lifestyle." I told her what I knew. Emma made $68,000 per year as a nurse. Greg made $72,000 in marketing. Combined income of $140,000 per year, which sounded like a lot. But they had 2 leased cars with monthly payments. Student loans still being paid down. Credit card debt, though I didn't know how much. Susan pulled out a calculator and started punching in numbers. Property taxes on a house valued at $375,000 in your county would be approximately $9,000 per year. Homeowners insurance, probably $3,000 annually. Utilities, maintenance, repairs, let's say another $6,000 on average. That's $18,000 per year just for basic housing costs, not including a mortgage. She looked at me over her reading glasses. If they'd had to buy that house with a conventional mortgage, putting 20% down and financing $300,000 at current interest rates, their monthly payment would be around $2,300. That's $27,600 per year. They're effectively receiving a gift of nearly $28,000 every single year by living mortgage-free. I'd never thought about it that way. I'd given them the house and thought that was the end of it. But Susan was right. Every year they lived there without a mortgage payment was another year of me subsidizing their lifestyle. They're living in a house they couldn't afford to buy on their own. Susan continued. And based on what you've told me about their spending habits and the amount of additional money they've needed, I suspect they're not managing their finances well. They're living beyond their means, counting on you to fill the gaps. "What do I do?" I asked. My voice sounded small. "You stop," Susan said simply. "You can't take the house back. It's Emma's. But you can stop giving them money. You can stop being their safety net. You can set boundaries and let them experience the natural consequences of their financial choices." She paused, then added gently, "You can't control whether Emma values you, Mrs. Muriel, but you can control whether you continue to allow yourself to be used. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is step back and let people grow up. I paid the consultation fee with my credit card, knowing I'd have to skip groceries to pay it off. But as I walked to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. clarity. My phone rang as I was unlocking my car door. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Muriel? Hi, it's Emma. My heart leaped despite everything. Maybe Shed reconsidered. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe my daughter was still in there somewhere, underneath Patricia's influence. Hey, Mom. Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely oblivious. Quick question. Patricia offered to buy us a new dining room set for Christmas. It's $2,000 and Shell only pay half. Can you cover the other $1,000? We really need it for Christmas dinner. Oh, and those gifts I ordered online? They're being delivered to your apartment because I wasn't home during the day. Can you wrap them for me? There are about 15 boxes. Thanks, Mom. I stood in the parking lot, snow beginning to fall around me. I looked back at Susan's office, then at my worn car with its glowing check engine light. Emma, I said slowly, I need to talk to you about something important. Mom, can it wait? I'm at the furniture store with Patricia right now. I could hear Patricia's voice in the background. Tell her we need an answer today to get delivery before Christmas. Something inside me snapped into place, hard and final. No, Emma. I won't be giving you any more money, and we need to have a serious conversation about our relationship. Silence. Complete silence on the other end of the line. Then Emma's voice came back, cold in a way I'd never heard before. Fine. Mom? Well, talk after Christmas. I have to go. The line went dead. I got in my car and sat there for a long time, my hands on the steering wheel, watching the snow fall. I should have felt devastated. Instead, I felt something unexpected. I felt free. Christmas Eve morning arrived cold and gray. I woke up in my small apartment to silence. No decorations brightened my space because I couldn't afford them this year. I'd put every spare penny into my bank account, trying to rebuild what I'd given away. I made myself toast and tea. Simple food that stretched my budget. I sat by the window, watching families in the building across the street preparing for Christmas. Through lit windows, I could see Christmas trees, people wrapping gifts, children running excitedly. The scene looked like something from a movie, warm and golden and full of love. My phone sat on the table beside me, silent. No calls from Emma, no texts, nothing. I thought about Christmases past, before Richard died, before everything fell apart. Richard cooking his famous prime rib roast, the whole house smelling like garlic and rosemary. Emma opening presents, her face bright with joy. Laughter filling every room. The three of us together, a family. Now Richard was gone. Emma had chosen Patricia's family over me, and I sat alone in an apartment that wasn't really home, eating bargain bread and drinking store-brand tea. The doorbell rang at 10 a.m., startling me. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find a delivery person standing there with a hand truck stacked with boxes. "Delivery for Muriel," he said, checking his tablet. 15 packages. Mom, there's a $90 delivery fee. The sender indicated you'd pay it. I stared at the boxes. I knew what they were. Emma's gifts for Patricia's family, sent to my apartment for me to wrap because Emma wasn't home during the day. 15 boxes. Expensive toys, electronics, designer items based on the shipping labels. I could see Amazon, Nordstrom, Williams-Sonoma. These weren't modest gifts. These were expensive, show-off presents meant to impress Patricia's family. Gifts from Emma and Greg to people who'd helped exclude me from Christmas, and Emma expected me to pay the delivery fee and wrap them all. "Mom," the delivery person said. "The fee," I looked at him, then at the boxes, then back at him. "Return them to sender," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Return to sender," I repeated. "I'm refusing the delivery, but the sender said you'd accept them." The sender was mistaken. I'm not paying $90, and I'm not accepting these packages. The delivery person looked uncomfortable but nodded. All right, Mom. I'll need you to sign here, confirming the refusal. I signed. He loaded the boxes back onto his truck and drove away. I closed the door and stood there for a moment, my heart pounding. It was such a small act of defiance, but it felt monumental. I couldn't stay in the apartment. The walls felt like they were closing in. I got dressed and drove to the library. I was scheduled to work a 4-hour shift, and even though it was Christmas Eve, I welcomed the distraction. The library was busy. It always was on Christmas Eve. Last-minute shoppers grabbing books as gifts, families picking up movies for holiday viewing, lonely people seeking warm refuge and human contact. I shelved books and helped patrons and lost myself in the familiar routine. My co-worker Janet found me in the biography section. Janet was in her early 70s, a widow like me, who worked at the library not for the money but for the companionship. She took one look at my face and said, "Muriel, honey, what are you doing here? Isn't Emma expecting you?" The kindness in her voice nearly broke me. I told her everything. 3 years of giving, the house, the money, the text message at 1 a.m., Patricia's email, the refused gifts, all of it spilled out while we pretended to organize books. Janet listened without interrupting. When I finished, she put her hand on my arm. "My son did something similar to me," she said quietly, not as extreme but similar. "Took and took, never gave." I finally set boundaries. It was the hardest thing I ever did. "What happened?" I asked. He was angry at first, accused me of being selfish and cruel. But eventually, he came around. It took 2 years, but he came around. And now our relationship is real. It's based on mutual respect, not just him using me. She squeezed my arm. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The people who only loved what you could give them will leave. Let them go, Muriel. I worked my full shift, grateful for something to do. When I got home at 6 p.m., I made myself a simple dinner, scrambled eggs and toast. Cheap, filling, practical. I thought about how I used to cook elaborate Christmas meals for Emma's family, spending hours in the kitchen, cleaning up alone while everyone else watched football. Not this year. My phone rang at 8 p.m. I looked at the screen. Emma. My heart jumped despite everything. I answered, "Mom, where are the gifts?" Emma's voice was tight, controlled anger. "The delivery company says you refused them." "I did," I said calmly. "What? Why? Do you know how embarrassing this is? Patricia's whole family is asking where their gifts are. They were supposed to be under the tree. Emma, I need you to come see me tomorrow. We need to talk. Tomorrow is Christmas. We have plans. Plans with Patricia's family," I said. "Not with me." "Mom, don't be dramatic. You said it was fine." "No, Emma." I said, "All right. There's a difference." I could hear her breathing, fast and angry. "I don't understand why you're being so difficult. After everything we've done for you." That sentence hung in the air between us. "After everything they'd done for me." "Emma," I said slowly, carefully, "tell me exactly what you've done for me. I'd like to know." Silence. "We," Emma started, then stopped. "We include you in our lives? You include me when you need something. Money, free labor, convenience. When was the last time you invited me over just to spend time with me? When was the last time you called to ask how I was doing? When was the last time you said thank you for the $400,000 I've given you?" More silence. Then her voice came back. Different now. Defensive and sharp. "That's not fair. You gave us that house as a gift. A gift. You can't hold it over our heads. I'm not holding anything over your head, I said, but am also not going to keep giving while getting nothing but disrespect in return. I'm done, Emma. No more money. No more being available every time you call. I'm going to spend my remaining years taking care of myself. You know what, Mom? Emma's voice shook. Patricia was right about you. You're bitter and lonely, and you're trying to control us with your money. Well, guess what? We don't need you anymore. We're financially stable now. We have Patricia's family. We don't need a mother who keeps score. Each word hit like a slap. But instead of crumbling, I felt myself getting stronger, clearer. You're right about one thing, Emma, I said quietly. You don't need my money anymore. So I'm stopping. No more financial help. No more being available at your convenience. I'm going to value myself, even if you don't. Fine, Emma shouted. Don't come crying to us when you're old and alone. We're done. The line went dead. I sat in my apartment, phone still in my hand, and waited for the devastation to hit. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something unexpected. I felt lighter, clearer, like I'd been carrying a heavy weight for 3 years and finally set it down. I got a notebook and pen. I made a list of things I was going to do. Not things I was going to do for Emma. Things I was going to do for myself. The list was short, but it was mine. Christmas morning, I woke up and made myself a promise. Today was going to be different. Today, I was going to take care of myself. I made breakfast, real breakfast, not just toast. I scrambled eggs with cheese, made fresh coffee instead of the instant I usually drank to save money, and sat down to eat it slowly, savoring every bite. After breakfast, I called Dorothy in California. We talked for 2 hours, something I never let myself do because long phone calls felt indulgent. Dorothy was thrilled about what I'd done. I'm so proud of you, she said. It takes real courage to set boundaries with your own child. Most mothers never do it. They just keep giving until there's nothing left. I was almost one of them, I admitted. But you're not. You stopped. And Muriel, I want you to come visit me. Come in March, stay for 2 weeks. We'll go to the beach, eat at nice restaurants, just enjoy life. What do you think? I can't afford it, I said automatically. Yes, you can. Book the flight. I'll pay for everything else once you're here. You need this. You deserve this. After we hung up, I sat down with my laptop and did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I looked at my finances not as something frightening, but as something I could control. I opened a spreadsheet and typed in my monthly income, $2,700. Then my expenses. Rent was $1,200. Utilities ran about $200. Food, if I was careful, $300. Car expenses, $200. Health insurance, $400. Medications, $150. That left me with $250 per month. $250. For 3 years, I'd been spending that and more on Emma and Greg. Emergency furnace repairs, new appliances, gifts for Patricia's family. But now, if I didn't give them anything, I could save it. $250 per month, $3,000 per year. In 10 years, I could rebuild $30,000 of savings. It wasn't the $400,000 ID given away, but it was something. It was mine. The week between Christmas and New Year's passed in a blur of small but significant changes. On Monday, I went to the bank and opened a new savings account. I titled it Muriel's Future. I transferred $250 into it immediately. Watching that transaction process felt like planting a seed. Tuesday, I made an appointment with a doctor I'd been avoiding because of cost. I needed my blood pressure checked. I'd been cutting my pills in half to save money, and I knew that was dangerous. The appointment was set for January 5th. Wednesday, I went to the bookstore downtown, the one with the cozy reading nook and the coffee shop inside. I renewed my membership to their book club, $30 per month, but worth it. I'd canceled it 2 years ago to save money. Now I was giving it back to myself. Thursday, I did something radical. I went to lunch at a nice restaurant, not fast food, not a sandwich at home. A real restaurant with cloth napkins and a menu with entrees that cost more than $10. I ordered salmon with roasted vegetables and a glass of white wine. Watching that transaction process felt like planting a seed. Tuesday, I made an appointment with a doctor I'd been avoiding because of cost. I needed my blood pressure checked. I'd been cutting my pills in half to save money, and I knew that was dangerous. The appointment was set for January 5th. Wednesday, I went to the bookstore downtown, the one with the cozy reading nook and the coffee shop inside. I renewed my membership to their book club, $30 per month, but worth it. I'd canceled it 2 years ago to save money. Now I was giving it back to myself. Thursday, I did something radical. I went to lunch at a nice restaurant. Not fast food, not a sandwich at home. A real restaurant with cloth napkins and a menu with entrees that cost more than $10. I ordered salmon with roasted vegetables and a glass of white wine. Instead, I did something that felt both scary and empowering. I hid Emma's posts from my feed, not unfriending her, not blocking her, just making it so I wouldn't see her updates unless I specifically went looking for them. Out of sight, out of mind. I needed to heal, and I couldn't do that while watching her perform Happy Family online. New Year's Eve arrived. Janet from the library invited me to a party at her apartment. "Just a few of us, ladies," she said. "Nothing fancy. We're all widows or divorcees, all rebuilding our lives. We could use another member in our club." I went. The party was in Janet's small apartment, similar in size to mine. 6 women, all around my age, all with stories of loss and survival. We drank cheap champagne and ate cheese and crackers. We shared our stories, laughed at ourselves, cried a little, and watched the ball drop on Janet's old television. At midnight, we raised our glasses. Janet made a toast. To women who know their worth, to second chances, to building the lives we deserve. We clinked glasses, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like I belonged somewhere. Not because of what I could give, but because of who I was. New Year's Day dawned bright and cold. I slept in, made coffee, and sat by my window watching the world wake up. I thought about my resolutions, not grand promises I wouldn't keep, but simple truths. I would not give away money I couldn't afford to lose. I would not accept disrespect, even from people I loved. I would remember that I mattered. My phone rang at 11 a.m. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Muriel? It's Greg." My heart jumped. Greg never called me. Emma did all the communicating. "Greg, can I come over? I need to talk to you. Alone. Does Emma know you're calling?" "No, she doesn't. Please, Muriel, I need to talk to you alone." Something in his voice, some note of desperation, made me agree. "All right, come over." He arrived at 2 p.m., and the moment I opened the door, I could see something was wrong. Greg looked terrible. His eyes were shadowed, his shoulders slumped. Had always been confident, almost cocky. The golden boy who'd swept Emma off her feet. Now he looked defeated. He sat at my small kitchen table, the same table where I'd added up $400,000 of gifts. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "A massive one." I stayed quiet, waiting. "Patricia has been poisoning Emma against you for years." The words came out in a rush. Subtle things, comparisons, making Emma feel ashamed of needing help from you. I went along with it because Patricia helped me get my job. Her brother owns the company. I was afraid if I spoke up, if I defended you, I'd lose everything. He looked up at me, and I saw shame in his eyes. But that's not even the worst part. Muriel, we're in trouble. Serious financial trouble. My stomach dropped. What kind of trouble? We have $37,000 in credit card debt. We've been living beyond our means, trying to impress Patricia and her family. The cars we're leasing cost $890 per month combined. We've been taking cash advances to cover bills. That furniture Patricia offered to split? She backed out after Christmas. Emma charged the full $2,000 to a credit card that's almost maxed out. He put his head in his hands. We were counting on you. We always have. We built our whole life around knowing you'd help us when things got tight. And now the bills are due. And Emma's panicking, and I don't know what to do. He looked at me with desperate eyes. Can you please help us? Just this one more time? Well, pay you back, I promise. Well, sign papers. Whatever you want. Please. I looked at this young man, barely 30 years old, who'd helped my daughter exclude me from Christmas. I felt pity for him. But I also felt clarity, sharp and clean. No, I said. Greg's face went pale. What? No, Greg. I won't give you money, but I'll tell you what I will do. I got up from the table and poured 2 glasses of water. I set one in front of Greg and sat back down with mine. He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I'll help you, I said, but not with money. I'll help you learn to fix this yourselves. I don't understand, Greg said. I'll sit down with you and Emma together. I'll help you create a real budget. I'll share the financial wisdom your father-in-law and I learned over 40 years of marriage. I'll teach you how to get out of this hole you've dug, but only under certain conditions. Greg leaned forward. What conditions? Emma has to ask me herself. She has to apologize. And it has to be real. And you both have to commit to changing. Not just getting out of this mess, but learning to live differently. No more trying to impress Patricia. No more spending money you don't have. No more using credit cards to finance a lifestyle you can't afford. Greg was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. That's fair. That's more than fair. Can I be honest with you, Muriel? Please. We don't actually know how to manage money. Emma and I, we've never really learned. We just kept charging things, kept spending, kept thinking it would work out somehow. We need help. Real help, not money. Help, then that's what I'll give you, I said. But Greg, you need to understand something. I'm not a bank anymore. I'm not your safety net. I'm your mother-in-law, and I deserve respect. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be real. It has to go both ways. I'm not going to keep giving while getting nothing back. I understand, Greg said. He looked younger suddenly, scared and vulnerable. Will you forgive us? Eventually. I don't know, I said honestly. That depends on what happens next. He left, and I sat alone in my apartment, wondering if he'd done the right thing. 3 days passed. No word from Emma or Greg. I started to think maybe I'd pushed too hard, expected too much. Then, on Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Mom, can we talk? In person. My heart jumped. I typed back, yes. Come to my apartment. Both of you. 10 a.m. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. I cleaned my small apartment, made coffee, and waited. At exactly 10 a.m., there was a knock on my door. Emma and Greg stood there. Emma looked different. Her usual confidence was gone. She wore jeans and a sweater, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired and scared and young. They came inside and sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Id calculated their debt to me, the same table where Greg had asked for more money. Now, it was a different kind of meeting. Emma didn't speak at first. She just sat there, looking at her hands. Finally, she raised her eyes to mine. "Mom, I'm sorry," her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. Sorry for what specifically?" I asked. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I needed her to say it out loud. "I'm sorry for taking you for granted, for treating you like a bank instead of a mother, for letting Patricia turn me against you, for that text message, for excluding you from Christmas, for spending your money like it meant nothing, for being selfish and cruel and ungrateful." Tears ran down her face now. "You gave me everything, and I acted like you owed it to me. Patricia got in my head, made me feel like accepting help from you was shameful, like it made me weak. So I started hiding our relationship from her, started being embarrassed of you. And that's the worst part, Mom. I was embarrassed of my own mother, the woman who gave me a house, who gave me everything. She was crying hard now. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it. Anyway, I want to fix this. I want to be your daughter again. Real daughter, not just someone who calls when she needs money." Greg spoke up. "Muriel, I owe you an apology too. I went along with everything because I was afraid of my mother, afraid of losing my job, afraid of conflict. I was a coward. I let Emma treat you badly because it was easier than standing up to Patricia." I sat there, feeling the weight of their words. Part of me wanted to forgive immediately, to pull Emma into a hug and tell her everything would be fine. But Eid learned something in the past week. Love without boundaries wasn't really love. "I appreciate your apologies," I said carefully. "But words are easy. I need to see change. I need to see respect. And I need you to understand something about my situation." I got my laptop and opened my bank account. I turned the screen so they could see. This is what I have left. $12,300. That's my entire life savings after buying your house and giving you everything else. Emma gasped. "Mom, I didn't know. I thought you had more. I thought you were fine. You didn't ask," I said. "You never asked how I was doing. You never asked if I could afford to help. You just assumed I was fine, that my money was endless. I showed them my budget, my income, my expenses, how tight everything was." Emma looked horrified. "Mom, you've been eating generic food and skipping medications while we went to restaurants and bought new furniture?" "Yes." "Oh my God." Emma put her face in her hands. "I'm a monster." "No," I said. "You're not a monster. You're a young woman who lost her way, but you can find it again." I closed my laptop. "Now, let me see your finances. All of them. Bank statements, credit card bills, everything. If you want my help, I need to see the full picture." They pulled out their phones and started showing me. It was worse than I thought. The credit card debt was actually $41,000, not $37,000. They'd forgotten about a store card. Their leased cars cost $890 combined monthly. They were spending $12,000 per month on their lifestyle. Their take-home pay after taxes was about $8,900 per month. They were spending $3,700 more than they made every single month. They were drowning. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "About a year," Greg admitted. "We kept thinking we'd catch up. Then we'd need something, and Emma would call you. And you'd help, and it would be okay for a while. But then we'd overspend again." I pulled out paper and started writing. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to return those leased cars. Yes, there'll be penalties, but you can't afford them. You're going to buy 2 used cars with cash. Nothing fancy, just reliable transportation. But what will Patricia say? Emma asked, then caught herself. Never mind. It doesn't matter what Patricia says. Good, I said. That's growth. I kept writing. You're going to cut cable. You're going to cancel subscriptions you don't use. You're going to stop eating out except for special occasions. You're going to cook at home. I'll teach you how. Richard had some excellent budget recipes. We're going to meal plan together, Emma asked, and something in her voice made me look up. She was smiling through her tears. Like we used to when I was in high school. Yes, I said. If you want to, I want to. We worked for 3 hours, creating a real budget, cutting expenses, finding ways to save. I taught them about the debt snowball method, paying off the smallest debt first and then rolling that payment into the next one. At their new reduced spending level, they could be debt-free in 3 years. 3 years sounds like forever, Greg said. 3 years is nothing, I told him. You're 30 years old. You have your whole lives ahead of you. But you need to learn to live within your means. You need to build real financial security, not just the appearance of it. As we were finishing, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, but Emma said, Mom, you should get that. It was Susan Blackwell, the attorney, Mrs. Muriel, I've been thinking about your case. I did some more research. I found something interesting. She explained that when I bought the house, there'd been title insurance, that insurance had a clause about fraudulent transfer. She'd been reviewing the email evidence I'd shown her, the one where Patricia discussed manipulating Emma to cut me out while keeping my money flowing. It's a long shot, Susan said, but there might be grounds for a case about undue influence and financial exploitation, not against Emma, but against Patricia. If we can prove a pattern of manipulation that led to your financial harm, you might be able to recover some money. Not all of it, but some. Emma and Greg had gone quiet, listening to my side of the conversation. When I hung up, Emma looked pale. Is Patricia? Has she been? Greg was nodding slowly. She knew we were in debt. She kept encouraging us to spend more, kept saying, don't worry, Emma's mom will help. She wanted us dependent. As long as we needed money, we'd need her brother for my job. We'd need her help. We'd be under her control. The truth hung in the air between us, ugly and clear. Patricia hadn't been helping. She'd been controlling, and she'd used my money to do it. Mom, Emma said slowly, what are you going to do? I thought about it. I could pursue legal action. Maybe win, maybe lose, but definitely spend months or years in conflict. Or I could let it go. Choose peace over revenge. I'm not going to sue Patricia, I said. She has to live with what she's done. That's punishment enough. But you two need to set serious boundaries with her. Emma nodded. We will, starting today. As they were leaving, Emma turned back. Mom, can we come over for dinner tomorrow? I want to learn to make Dad's pot roast. And I just want to spend time with you. No agenda, just us. I felt something crack open in my chest, something that had been frozen for a long time. Yes, I said. I'd like that. 3 months passed. 3 months of weekly dinners, of budget meetings, of slow and careful healing. I watched Emma and Greg transform from entitled young people into responsible adults. They returned their leased cars and bought 2 used vehicles, a 12-year-old sedan for Emma and a 10-year-old truck for Greg. They paid $4,000 each, using money from their tax refund. Patricia was horrified. Of course. She made several cutting comments about them looking poor. Emma told her to mind her own business. That was growth. They cut their spending dramatically. Emma started bringing lunch to work instead of eating out, saving about $300 per month. Greg took a weekend job doing freelance marketing work, bringing in an extra $1,000 monthly. They planted a vegetable garden in their backyard to reduce food costs. Their credit card debt was down to $29,000. They were paying $2,000 per month toward it, watching the number shrink. It was slow, but it was real progress. Emma set firm boundaries with Patricia. No more daily phone calls, no more discussions about their finances. When Patricia tried to manipulate Greg through his job, he stood firm. It cost him a promotion, but he found a new job at a different company making even more money. Patricia's control over them was broken. My life changed too. My savings account, the one titled Muriel's Future, now had $2,400 in it. Not much, but growing steadily. $250 per month, every month, mine to keep. I went to doctor's appointments regularly. My blood pressure was under control with proper medication. I wasn't cutting pills in half anymore. I joined the book club, made new friends, stopped spending evenings alone in my apartment, feeling sorry for myself. In March, I took the trip to visit Dorothy in California. I used $600 from my savings, and it was worth every penny. We went to the beach, ate at nice restaurants, laughed until we cried. I came home feeling recharged and valued. I even started writing, just journaling at first, working through my feelings about everything that had happened. But then the journal entries started looking more like essays. Maybe someday I'd compile them into a book about financial boundaries and self-worth. Maybe not. Either way, the writing was healing. My relationship with Emma was different now. Better, but different. We had dinner together every Sunday, rotating between my apartment and her house. We talked about real things, not just surface pleasantries. Emma asked about my life, my work at the library, my book club friends. I listened to her talk about nursing, about the patients she helped, about her dreams for the future. When they needed help with something at the house, Greg did the work himself, or they saved up to hire someone. They didn't call me, expecting me to pay for it. When I babysat their new puppy, a golden retriever they adopted from a shelter, it was because I wanted to, not because they demanded it. Respect flowed both ways now. Love with boundaries. That's what a real relationship looked like. 4 months after our confrontation, on a warm April evening, Emma and I sat on her porch together. The garden we'd planted was starting to come up. Little green shoots of tomatoes and peppers and herbs. We drank iced tea and watched the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. "Mom," Emma said quietly, "I've been thinking about what you taught me. About boundaries, about self-respect, about not letting people use you. I want to pass that wisdom to my children someday. When Greg and I are ready to have kids, I want to teach them to value themselves the way you finally learned to value yourself." "You will," I said. "You're learning it now. I almost lost you," Emma said, tears in her eyes. I was so focused on impressing Patricia, on being good enough for Greg's family, that I forgot about the one person who loved me unconditionally. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "I know you are," I said, "and I've forgiven you. But Emma, I need you to understand something. I didn't set those boundaries to punish you. I did it to save myself, and maybe to save us. Because what we had before wasn't a real relationship. It was me giving and you taking. And that's not sustainable. That's not love." The story came full circle that December. The next Christmas, 9 months after that devastating text message, at 1 a.m, this year was completely different. Emma invited me early, in November. "Mom, we're having a small Christmas this year. Just us, you, and Dorothy, if she wants to come from California. Nothing fancy, just family. Please say you'll come." "Of course, I'll come," I said. Christmas morning, I drove to Emma's house with homemade cookies, wearing one of my new outfits. Emma met me at the door with tears in her eyes and pulled me into a tight hug. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for not giving up on me." Dorothy had flown in from California the day before. The four of us, Emma, Greg, Dorothy, and me, gathered in the living room. The Christmas tree was smaller this year, decorated with homemade ornaments instead of expensive designer ones. But it was beautiful, Patricia called during dinner. Emma looked at her phone, then looked at me. "I'm going to let that go to voicemail. Today is about us." We held hands around the table. Emma said grace. "Thank you for this food, for this house, and most of all, for the people around this table who love each other for real. Thank you for second chances and hard lessons. Amen. Amen," we echoed. After dinner, as we sat by the fireplace drinking coffee, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain, the betrayal, the moment I finally stood up for myself. It had been the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it had saved me. Let me share what I learned, in case someone out there needs to hear it. I learned that love without boundaries isn't really love at all. It's fear dressed up as generosity. For years, I was afraid that if I didn't give Emma everything, I'd lose her. But the truth is, by giving everything, I was losing myself. I was teaching her that love could be bought, that mothers were bottomless wells of resources to be drained without thought. When I finally said no, when I finally stood up for myself, I didn't lose my daughter. I saved our relationship, because real love can only exist between people who respect each other, and respect requires boundaries. Your children don't need a martyr. They need a model. They need to see you value yourself, so they learn to value themselves. They need to understand that generosity is beautiful, but it must flow both ways. They need to know that relationships are built on mutual care, not one-sided sacrifice. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's survival. It's dignity. It's the most loving thing you can do because it teaches the people around you how to truly love. Here is what nobody tells you. When you stop being useful, you find out who truly loves you. Some people will leave. Let them go. The ones who stay, the ones who rise to meet you with respect and reciprocity, those are your people. Those relationships are worth fighting for. I'm 67 years old. I spent too many years being useful instead of being valued. Don't make my mistake. Know your worth, guard your heart, set your boundaries, and trust that the people who truly love you will respect them. That's not just advice. That's survival wisdom. That's how you keep your dignity and your relationships intact. That's how you get to the end of your life and feel proud of the person you were, not resentful of the person others made you. Love yourself enough to demand better. Your future self will thank you. I sat by Emma's fireplace that Christmas evening, holding my cup of tea, watching Emma and Greg clean up the kitchen together. They'd insisted I rest. I looked at my simple life, my modest bank account slowly rebuilding, my small circle of genuine relationships. I thought about the house I bought, the money I spent, the years of being used. And then I thought about this moment, genuine laughter, real connection, mutual respect. I realized something profound. This is what I bought with my pain, not the house. This, the truth, the healing, the real relationship built on honesty and boundaries and mutual respect. It was expensive, the most expensive lesson of my life, but it was worth every single penny. Because now, when Emma says she loves me, I believe her. Not because of what I can give her, but because of who I am. And that makes all the difference. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt taken for granted by someone you love? Have you ever given and given until there was nothing left, hoping it would be enough? What boundaries do you need to set in your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps others who need this message find it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to hear more stories about life, love, boundaries, and finding your worth. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You might just change their life. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the courage to value yourself the way you deserve. Remember, you matter. Your needs matter. Your boundaries matter. Don't ever forget that. May you find the strength to stand up for yourself, the wisdom to set healthy boundaries, and the peace that comes from knowing your worth. Take care of yourselves out there.